Coming soon to this theater.
We're back on the Drive-In Asylum double feature, and the next time you see us, we'll be doing those two fantastic films, Blood on Satan's Claw and The Wicker Man. Sean Midas will be our guest. That's going to happen on May 14th. We're off next weekend and the weekend after that. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
So Mike's already yawning. Is that how the boarding house makes you feel?
No, I think I'm just it's like I honestly do go to bed at 10 p.m. usually during the week. So somebody said I think Sean Midas said he didn't like boarding house, or somebody at the beginning of the chat said me no.
Yeah,
like.
Sean said me no likey.
Chris needs therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame anybody for their opinion about boarding house, but I kind of like it. I don't know. I like stuff like this. It really made no sense whatsoever, and that's my jam. I know
This would
Sam
be a
likes
movie
that
that
too.
would be playing at Bill's house with like DJ Mix playing over top of it with no dialogue.
It would be better that way.
Yeah. There's some Lucifer's Flowers playing over it. Like a 12-inch mix of it.
You know, and even though it was filmed in Hollywood or in LA rather, it still is very much, in my opinion, a regional horror, you know, because it's like, whereas like Brown Rig, like, is all very, very much Texas-y, you know, like this is very much San Fernando Valley, like down the street from, it's funny that it played with Valley Girl because it's from that exact same area. All these like porno starlets trying to go straight and stuff. It was...
Yeah, there's a girl in this looks a lot like Samantha Fox. Yeah, the one with the British accent. Like she has
Right.
like a smaller chest than Samantha Fox.
Hurt me, but the pants stay on.
Oh, yes. She's just swung out over top of that crowd of weird, needy dudes trying to pull her down off that rope. In that one video from I think it's in the one from Naughty Girls Need Love. Man, the 80s. Weird. Anywho, I dig this movie, and I think that everybody's giving their opinions on what the lead guy looks like, and I agree with Mike. It's Michael Shannon very much, mixed with Get Crazy era Malcolm McDowell. That's my vote.
Michael Blodgett from Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. That's
Yes.
the name I was trying to remember. A little bit of that. And someone mentioned Garrett Graham, which I think is dead on.
I'm going to try that soap trick later. I'm going to call back in and be like, hey, look. She'll be like, no.
David Copperfield tried that on Jamie Lee Curtis in Terror Train, but that scene got cut.
Becca said to me at one point, she said, I thought you said I might like this movie. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, never. I went to sleep.
You can't win them all. Marriage is a give and take.
It is. So, yeah, he is kind of Kinski eyes, maybe a little bit. Like a non-incest Klaus Kinski.
I never got Klaus Kinski. Klaus Kinski is one of those people that my whole life I've been told that he's a genius, and I'm like, is he though?
I'm on the genius side.
I don't get it. They're like, Klaus Kinski, he tried to murder his co-stars and tried to rape every woman he ever acted with, but he's such a genius. You have to let it go. And I'm like, what? I know a lot of actors who can do what he does and aren't crazy.
Yeah.
Marjo Gortner, that's another good call.
That's Sean. That's a very good call.
There really is a type here, isn't there?
Yeah. Also, why does this movie fit our show? Women scream for the last 20 minutes of it. There's just nonstop screaming. And I said, oh yeah. Also tonight, if you didn't guess the secret theme tonight, it's shower caps. So if you had shower caps, you win something. I don't know what it is.
Don't get my hair wet.
I should have put on one of Becca's for when we came back, and I would have fit in a shower curtain. I'll be like Darcy. I'll do a cosplay for the last segment every time.
Paul wants to know if I don't think any other movies have used the exact same theme music, but this theme music was very Boogeyman, very Halloween, like definitely of that era, of that genre.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah, effects of this are way better than you would think they would be for the level of movie. The effects are pretty cool, especially at the end. The eyeball stuff at the end is pretty good.
I want to get the soundtrack album featuring 33 and a Third and Kalasu.
There's some videos. They have video. There's a tie-in video. There's a song that they sing in the movie called "Love Starved," and if you look it up on YouTube, they have like one of those tie-in soundtrack videos where it's where they put clips from the movie in the video and stuff, and it's fun to watch.
There was a lot of
good.
There was a lot of screaming in this from the men and the women. The guys got some good screams in there too, especially the guy that got electrocuted in the tub.
Right.
Yeah.
The hairdryer fell in.
Yeah, and nobody noticed that, he was screaming, and then like she somehow dragged him out to the yard and buried him, and nobody noticed. Even though everyone's up each other's ass and in everyone's business constantly, this one time she was able to get out of the house.
That was no more than a 2 or 3 bedroom house. That was not a boarding house.
If I was trying to fall asleep and someone came in with pots and pans, I would have. They'd be dead. They would not have survived.
Yeah, it's funny because that scene didn't really strike me as odd when I was a kid and watched this movie, because I didn't realize that once I got to be an adult that kind of behavior wasn't cool anymore, so I was like, and then after I grew up I was like, what kind of an adult goes in and like bangs pots and pans when there's like someone else is trying to sleep?
Oh, the worst. Like when I had roommates, like, just stay away from me. I just want to watch my movies.
The breathing was excellent. I loved that. And then they all did it at the end when they had to fight Debbie.
There's a lot of swimsuits in this. The swimsuit, and some people just wearing like flimsy scraps of cloth that will get wet.
Can we talk about it? Oh, that lady that fell in the pool, and it was like tissue paper that she was wearing.
Yeah.
But the guy had underwear that was definitely ordered from the International Male catalog.
Oh yeah. Even Barat wouldn't wear his swimsuits.
He's the director and the writer.
Everything. An auteur, as they say in the biz. Also, this movie really sets up. It really feels like an '80s porn, because I'm waiting for the penetration happen and nothing ever happens. Like it's led to, it works very similarly,
Yeah.
So Alexandra Day, who was the British girl, she was a Penthouse model, and she had been in Penthouse a few years before, and her name in Penthouse was Baby Brees, and there was a contest to see if you could guess her age. She was actually like 19 at the time, but she looked very young. And she was in Lady Chatterley's Lover and like all these like two.
She's the maid in Lady Chatterley's Lover too. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's in Homework too.
Oh yeah, she's a dream groupie. She's in Homework, and she's in
Young Lady Chatterley 1 too. She's Sybil in the Young Lady in Fairy Tales.
She plays like a maid in each one.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was friends with Linnea Quigley, and I asked Linnea Quigley about her. I was like, what can you tell me about her? And she goes, Linnea's like, she was weird. She was always depressed. So
now we know.
Yeah, now we know why.
She was stuck in the boarding house.
So she actually had a weird thing happen to her. So she was doing a skydiving publicity stunt for like Penthouse or something, where she was skydiving topless, and her parachute went off, but it blew her into like these rocks, and she like shattered her legs on these rocks when she landed. And she was in the hospital for months and months and months. And then when she finally recovered, she was able to go back to nude modeling, but it was never the same as it was before the accident. So.
Wow. Scars.
I thought you were going to have a bionic woman type story after that.
Right.
They rebuilt better, stronger.
Her insurance didn't cover bionic implants.
That's sad.
Does it ever?
Not that they didn't. Obviously, they weren't going to give her bionic legs, but it's sad that happened.
So this movie actually has a Don Edmonds connection, because Don Edmonds was friends with the people who made this movie, and so when she's running through the cemetery in that nightmare scene, you see a tombstone that says Ilsa Wolf on it, because they had been in Don Edmonds, after he made Ilsa She-Wolf for the SS, made this movie called Terror on Tour about like this. And Kalamazoo and her husband are in a scene at the concert. So
it has the soup Nazi in it too, for very briefly.
Oh yeah,
isn't it? Like just for a little bit.
John Wintergate.
Like to discuss it. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you've been in other things like every comic convention. No, sorry, I didn't mean to bring up Terror on Tour.
John Wintergate is the name of the director. We should say that. I don't think we said that out loud.
And that's his real lawyer, right? During the scene in the office, like he may have been more expensive than an actor if he was charging his hourly rate.
Right,
that's true. Yeah,
it's official. You're the owner. Gives him his hands him some keys.
Maybe he has him on retainer.
Yeah, he must. It's kind of. There's some weird like guru like Living. I like when that one cop asked him. He's like, "So you in the landlord business now?" And he's like, "Something like that." There's a lot of like guys elbowing each other in the ribs in that scene.
Well, what I love is how he goes, "Who was that brunette back there?" And then it cuts to where like what they're looking at, and it's an entire pool full of women. And it's like, but you're still just wondering who the brunette was who answered the door. You're not asking, "Hey, by the way, why do you have like 12 girls in your swimming pool right now?"
Where do you see this great boarding house scheme I got going, man?
Right.
And even his fully clothed outfits are upsetting. Like it's and not because of the. It's just like it's not good clothing. I think that's what I mean by upset. They're all just strange.
His earrings were distracting too.
Yeah.
It looked like he was trying to signal the English fleet.
I really want to get their kids movie now to see it because I can only imagine that it's somehow stranger than this.
I watched part of it. It's weird. It's a little bit. It resembles a real movie more than Boarding House, but they're all trying to be kind of against type. So like Kalisu's in it, but she's playing an alcoholic social worker, like a frumpy alcoholic social worker. Like you could tell that she's like, this will finally garner me that respect that climbing out of a pool wearing cheesecloth didn't get me in the last movie, and it's like, but nobody ever saw it.
There's an alt title for this too, right? Psycho Killer is an alt title.
Mm-hmm. And Housegeist.
Ooh. Like
that's the one I wanted to talk about, Psycho Killer.
Yeah.
Because I guess that was a video title.
Because
I tried really hard to find it released as Psycho Killer, and all I could find were references to the Talking Heads and David Byrne. So I didn't find it, but I saw a blurb somewhere that said that was a video title, maybe.
Yeah, it only played as Boarding House in theaters, but it came out on video as Housegeist. I never saw it on video as Psycho Killer. I think Psycho Killer is a version that they had prepared to license out to video on the off chance that the video would need a more sensational title than Boarding House.
yeah.
But I've never seen it anywhere before except for the Blu-ray.
Maybe it was the exact same print with a different title cut in.
It kind of was. It was like they did end up including the Psycho Killer version, but the only reason why they included the Psycho Killer version, I think it was because of the framing. I think that the other print that they had was 16:9 blown up, and that the Psycho Killer was actually open matte, that they were able to, if you wanted to like.
I like a lot of the renamed Jess Franco stuff where all of a sudden the title card just comes up over top of it with like the name of the movie, like totally obscuring the old cover, the old name, and just a video effect on it. Like, okay, that's what it is.
Or in Ilsa the Wicked Warden, where they didn't dub everybody saying Ilsa, they just cut out whenever they refer to the warden by name.
Yeah.
so it's like they're just like, well, we'll just not say her name.
You and I talked about that movie. I love that movie. That's like Diane Thornton is supposed to be Ilsa and like the most horrible woman in the world, and all of a sudden, Jess Franco is like, "Hold on a second, like my wife can really outdo Ilsa, like beyond belief."
Were you the one that was telling me that you like Lena Romay was so hot that you would have licked her ass in that movie?
Her culo?
Yeah, that was me. Yes, of course.
Her culo, I think, is how she referred to it.
I love Lena Romay, so yeah, that was me.
I don't.
You're like, you're disgusting, and I'm like, I mean, yes, of course.
Lena Romay, I'm going to say, is like another one that I sort of don't really get. I mean, I get that she's. I've never had a problem with her, but like when people, I mean, I don't, it's like, man, like for her to be a muse for somebody and for him to put her in like 250 movies, I'm like,
if you go back to like Naked Vampire and stuff, not that, I think that she hit on whatever he was looking for. Like they had like this spiritual connection beyond physical connection. And he was looking for that from someone after what's her name died. And, so he was really looking for,
Sola after Soledad Miranda died. Yeah.
And I think the funny thing is, like, she was married for like the first 4 years of their movies, and like she even said in interviews, like like they first really found love during Naked Vampire, and like hadn't consummated their relationship for like 3 or 4 years afterwards. And like every time she made love to a guy in a movie while he was watching, it was always him. And like she was always making love to Jess, and he always thought of him as being with her, which is weirdly beautiful in a very odd way. And like and I can only imagine, like, because he left his wife, she left her husband, he had kids, like, and his kids are still in his movies after, his daughter's in a few of the movies. And like I can only imagine after like 4 years of this craziness, or years of this craziness, their first time together was like this volcanic, like broke Jess Franco's back. Like, everybody got hurt. It was like Boarding House. Stuff just started shaking. People were screaming with blood coming out of their eyes. It's pretty amazing.
Right. People were cutting themselves on apples or whatever.
Yeah. Like, I'm cutting an apple. All of a sudden, the knife.
The apple cut me.
Yeah.
She says the apple cut me.
She's like, I cut
the
myself
story
with
of
the
Boarding
apple.
House. They're feeling the psychic energy of Jess Franco and Lena Remey. Yeah.
There was one in the 2.5 hour version. There's a big subplot about that kind of that rocker chick who rips her own eyeballs out, and she's a friend of the Calisu character, but she's like this user friend of hers who's always sort of
Fake
like,
Samantha Fox. Yeah.
yeah, and she there's a scene where she's like, oh, I have to eat breakfast, and then she like snorts this big line of coke off the dining room table, and one of the girls looks at the other girl and goes, there went rent.
See, now I want to see this 2.5 hour cut. I've never seen it.
It's only interesting if you've seen Boarding House and you're like, I just want to see more scenes of like women meandering around talking about nothing. Like
It's a hangout movie. Literally.
Yeah.
Well, that was the good stuff in the movie anyway. I was getting into their lives. I loved this life that they had for themselves.
Bill wants the HBO Max series of Boarding House, where it's just episodes of women doing nothing, like 7 episodes.
It's like an early version of Celebrity Big Brother.
Yeah.
Or
with
just
a
Big
killer
Brother.
on the loose. With a dude who can float soap and a killer on the loose.
And none of these women, like, so for instance, it's this cheap boarding house. They're all living there with this guy, but they're all these various professions. Like one of them's a school teacher. The other one's like a rock star. The other one's this. And I'm like, they're all living in this cheap boarding house. In real life, none of them would have jobs. Or they'd be all like working at McDonald's or something. They wouldn't be cool. They would be like weird losers, like living
Those
in a
aren't the
boarding
kind
house.
of people that gravitate around a boarding house.
The people from a Brown Rig movie are the people that congregate in a boarding house.
Or
Like
mongrel. Like the mongrel people.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, not these starlets and especially, I mean, I could get maybe if these entertainment industry girls, but like one of them's like, I'm going out for a teaching position, and it's like, really, you're like a professor and you live in this boarding house and you're part of some dude's harem.
Yeah, it's nothing but like chicks in bikinis, 24/7, girls in bikinis at the pool, and she's interested in education.
This version that we watched tonight was actually a little bit shorter than the regular one because this print that they got the video from had some scenes cut out. There was a scene where they all get in a pie fight in the kitchen that wasn't in this version. And there was like some other scenes, like they when she goes into that bathroom and he shows her the soap floating and stuff. In the regular version, it's preceded by this scene where the girls decide that they're going to use her as like to go and steal his music tapes because they want to hear whatever it is that he's like meditating to. So they get her all dressed up in a negligee and like as this pawn.
These sound like scenes that a weird projector would walk away with. He's like, oh, those ones are coming home.
Yeah, I mean, apparently this is like the director's
an affable pervert.
Yeah.
I'm not really with that.
Yeah, it's like how I was reading somewhere once that whenever prints of I Spit on Your Grave would get back to the Jerry Gross, they would have like all these like scenes cut out. And I'm like, ew.
My favorite weird story like that is Johnny Legend's job for a while was to go to all the adult theaters and cut the scenes out of what's her name, the one-legged porn star. Not Aunt Peg, but Oh, my brain shot tonight. But anyway, there's a scene where she uses her appendage on a guy, and people were so upset by that he had to go and cut that scene out in the theaters and then put it back on the reel.
That's
And
a
there
real
was
Exorcist 2 moment.
Yeah, and there was one of the theaters where like one of the projectionists was like would not watch that scene. Like he's like, well, you have to. He's like, I'll tell you when it comes, and then I will not look at the screen, and you can cut out that part of it. It's so like scandalized him. So
Now I want
Yeah.
to see it. I mean, now that's like a challenge.
I mean, have I seen it? Yes, but
Oh, you have?
yeah, it's on
Oh,
the
wow.
release. The little what's her name? Jean Silver is her name now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the Vinegar Syndrome released it, and it's in the Vinegar Syndrome version. Pretty sure. Long Jean Silver, thanks, Matt.
Wait, so she's a
I'm friends
woman.
with on Facebook and sent me a nice message when I got married, and I was like, wow, like if only 16-year-old me knew that this would be my life.
Yeah, the director's cut is on YouTube. That's the link that Sam posted in his blog.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
it's
so
changed
there's
it
probably
back.
some.
I changed it back to the one that you sent me, though, as I promised.
Oh, good, because that might mean there's still some people that haven't finished watching the movie yet.
Yeah,
yeah,
They're gonna
go
come
to
back
the
and find us gone.
yeah.
go to the director's cut and fast forward to the pie fight. It happens right before the party. So they're making pies for the party, and Debbie walks in and she's irritated that they're laughing and giggling and like having a good time without her. So she uses her powers to make the pies fly into their faces, and then they all get in a fight with each other and start throwing pies at each other. And then somebody walks out and goes like, "Did you see the mess they made in the kitchen with all those damn pies?" And Debbie goes, "Well, slobs will be slobs, won't they?"
I'm obsessed with seeing the scripts of movies because I just heard about Ninja 3: The Domination, the canon movie that when Menahem Golan wrote it, he literally just wrote it as like fight scene happens here. So the whole like first 15 minutes or that big golf course, it's an insane like long scene. That's all he wrote. So it's almost like old Marvel Comics style where like Stan Lee would say fight, and then Jack Kirby would draw like 30 pages of crazy stuff, and like that's Stan Lee's writing. So that makes me like literally the stunt crew and the director wrote more than half of these canon movies. So that's probably why they're so action heavy.
There's a scene in the movie of Boarding House. It's not the script, but when the private eye is sitting outside the house, casing the house, looking for Cindy, and he's got a picture of Cindy. If you freeze it and look at what he's looking at a headshot of the actress, and he's holding on to the call sheet of the movie. So it says like he's holding onto the sheet, and it says like exterior boarding house day, blah 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 blah. Like, like we will be breaking at lunch, park around the corner, like all this stuff. And so it's like,
Well,
We
we
talked
talked
about that
last
too.
week about that, about when you see an actor's headshot in a movie that's supposed to be a picture of them.
It happened
like
in here too. In her bedroom, she had her publicity shot behind her bed.
well, sometimes it's ridiculous. Like the mom in Pieces is supposed to be like this 40s housewife, but when you see like the picture that the son has of her, it's of this like 70s actress in her headshot.
I always say my favorite is in Wicked Stepmother, where like there's like a Betty Davis publicity shot from like 50 years ago, sitting on the counter, and then there's like, and he goes, and they talk about her first husband, and it's a Joan Crawford publicity shot. Speaking of Larry Cohen movies, maybe not as good as God Told Me to, but yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, what was the story with that? I think they were saying that like Betty Davis wanted to quit because she didn't like the movie, but then Larry Cohen said that they had to fire her because so that SAG wouldn't fine her for quitting or something like that. Or
Yeah, and then they what's his name from Messiah of Evil redubbed all her dialogue.
Michael Greer.
Yeah, because that was his side
Yeah, I
line.
mean, it was mostly stuff she hadn't recorded, even like because
Yeah.
her voice was coming out of a cat, so a
Yeah.
lot of times it was Michael Greer's voice.
Yeah, which is insane. It's a nutty movie. My wife loves that movie because it was one of those ones that was on cable all the time when she was the right age for it, so it kind of works.
Michael Greer was doing that Betty Davis thing in the movie The Rose.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene where like Bette Midler and her boyfriend go to some drag club and meet Michael Greer, and then some drag queen comes out doing of the Rose drag outfit.
The Rose. Where's everybody going? She was.
Yeah.
I have to admit, the first time I saw The Rose, I was actually kind of glad when that happened because she had become this grating personality by the end of the movie.
I never saw it, but my parents had the album, and I would just listen to it and look at the pictures and imagine what the story could be. And I'd like to think that the bizarre in my head is probably better than The Rose.
Yeah, I did that too. I had the Rose soundtrack, and I could never. And then when I watched the movie, my friend and I used to watch The Rose, and we thought it was a comedy because it was just Bette Midler like screaming at people, like driving through barricades, like throwing fits in public places and stuff. And like, I remember when Ruthless People came out, I was like, this could be like a sequel to The Rose. Like maybe she faked her death.
Yeah, I love that idea way better than the real movie.
You should do a fan edit of The Rose that's like, your version of The Rose. It's just keep all the crazy stuff.
I 100% thought Fatal Attraction was a comedy the first time I saw it. Like if you watch it thinking of it as a comedy, it really works. Like especially the rabbit scene, like it's like, oh well, that's the punchline. Like you just change up the music a little bit and it'll work.
Or when she's like talking to the operator, like, operator, can you just get me this number? Well, fuck you.
I love to like the minute like when they go in, like it taught me so much about dating because when I go into her house and there's plates are stacked up in the sink and she just like throws her ass up on the plates and then they're fucking and she just turns on the sink like that with the water like that taught me like fun as hard.
What was she doing? I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Like how did that make their encounter more erotic?
Who knows? There's some guy out there who was like that was the shit. Like that was
I think there was something about, I remember when Fatal Attraction came out and there was something, so in Play Misty for Me, you don't really know too much about her personal life and you don't know where she's coming from. And I feel like that made it a little bit more sense because in Fatal Attraction, she had a job. She was a professional and she had a career. And I was like,
an editor or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I mean, I know that crazy people can function in society and they're crazy might only come out in situations like this. But I'm like, would somebody that volatile be able to claw their way to a position like that? Like, I feel like Jessica Walter was like, you didn't know where she was.
Sad, lonely, lost soul.
Yeah, but then it was like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction is like, yeah, she's like a professional person. I'm like, really? Like,
well, how would this whole genre of Michael Douglas is the put upon hero. Like he can be a complete jerk. Like what's the one with the one where he's working for the software firm with
Disclosure.
Disclosure. And like I love she's like you could view that movie with him as the villain just as easily as especially now like 20 years later. Like it's you know what I mean?
I love Disclosure. I love how they tricked people into thinking that it was going to be like a sexy thriller and it turns out to just be like this Michael Crichton virtual reality like corporate espionage thriller or something where it's like
they give you the sex scene like in the first 20 minutes and you're like, oh, that's what we came here. We came here to see to be more Michael Douglas, and then it's like, nope, it's now Michael Douglas has on VR goggles and he's in a library.
And it's like the whole point is like of the movie is like what the real intrigue is that this chick from operations who doesn't know anything about the technical side of things instituted these cost-saving measures that are wrecking their prototype for a CD-ROM drive, and like they have to expose her at like the stockholders meeting or something. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, it loses all its steam after the beginning. Versus like Fatal Attraction at least keeps it up. But there's like a ton of movies where Michael Douglas is a horrible person, and like I really think that maybe that's Michael Douglas, and it just is weird.
He's your go-to guy for that character.
Like likable scumbag, I guess.
I didn't like him.
People loved him though. He was in a lot of those movies.
I meant in Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, and Basic Instinct. Though you know what? I finally saw Basic Instinct 2, and I loved it.
Oh, Basic Instinct 2 is gold.
Yeah, it's the beginning with her like that dude's paralyzed and she's giving him a hand job and they crash into the water. And you're like, did Jess Franco make this movie or Joe D'Amato make this movie? Because it really feels like from their world.
Yeah, that movie was really very strange because Sharon Stone would have been paid to make that movie whether they made it or not. And she had a pay or play clause in her contract. And they were like, well, we don't really have a director or a script or anything, but we have to make this movie. So that was what they cobbled together so quickly. And I don't know. I kind of love it.
It was, well, it was in the first movie. She wasn't, I mean, she was in the second, in part 2, she's just a one-liner machine.
Yeah.
You know, and
like
nobody
Arnold.
can, yeah, and nobody can have a straight conversation with her. Like the cops are interviewing her about the car crash, and they're like, you know, how did you crash? And you were having sex at 100 miles an hour, and she's like 110. I guess we hit a pothole. And so it's like you can't get a straight answer out of her. Like even in the first one, she at least knew how to communicate. In part 2, she's just like nya 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 nya.
Well, I like that. That's from the whole era of her career where she became hard to work with, and like Silver is like, their Sliver has like the whole different ending where they fly the helicopter into the volcano, and like she's in on the killings, and it's like it doesn't make any sense. Like it's really wild that like, but you know, it was the Joe Esterhaus era, right? Where like people are just like, let's just give him $7 million or $10 million, and just whatever he makes, we're gonna make. And it's
it ended with Showgirls.
Yeah, and then that was it. But he made enough.
And then, well, did you guys see Diabolique?
No, it's shot in Pittsburgh though.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it was written by Don Roos, who made The Opposite of Sex and stuff. So it is just this sassy gay movie where all she does is like tell people off with these one-liners, and like she teaches grade school in a black sleeveless cocktail dress, and she wears like polished like cotton leopard skin pants to work and everything, and it's just like it's camp.
Oh man, I just am like amazed that like this time existed where it was like she opened movies and she was a big deal. But it happened. She worked for a long time because she's in King Solomon's Mines and all the ton of Cannon movies. So
yeah, because she was already, I mean, when she was in, I remember, it's so funny now to think about when she was in Sliver, there's a scene where she goes, I'm 35 years old, I'm not 25. And I remember going like, oh, Sharon Stone is 35. Wow, she's old. And now I'm like, God, wow, she was a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, like years ago, Arnold had said, consider this a divorce. It totally culture.
I love that. That's right, because she and Rachel Ticotin get in that gunfight, and then she's like, "We're married. Consider that a divorce."
My favorite thing ever is I have the Total Recall with the Arnold commentary track, and the Arnold commentary track is out of this world. It's just him talking to you as you watch the movie, like no insight. It's just like, in the talk I have, she is blonde and she is my girlfriend, and she is evil, and then here's where I shoot her. It's very good. And it's just like him like walking you through it. It's awesome. And him just laughing and saying how much he likes it, how pretty people are. It's just awesome. It's exactly what you want it to be.
I was watching a commentary for RoboCop, and they were talking about how when Paul Verhoeven made it, like, for instance, he didn't really get the fact that the word bitches was derogatory for women. So in that scene where the guy comes in and says, bitches leave, he's like, now, should the bitches leave when you say bitches leave, or should you motion for the bitches to leave and then the bitches leave? Okay, bitches, you are going to wait. When he tells you to leave, you leave. And then like they left the movie, you know, at the end of the shooting day. He's like, that's a wrap on the bitches. The bitches are done.
On the new era Blu-ray or UHD, there's a commentary. Like they go around and show the sets, and part of it's shot in Charleroi, Monessen, like the next town's over from us. And Karen Allen says, I'm in Monessen, PA, and it's the shittiest town I've ever been in. And I like watched it the day I moved in. I was like, oh thanks, Karen. Hey, Matt asked, he has Let Me Die a Woman. Do you have any opinions on Let Me Die a Woman?
I haven't seen Let Me Die a Woman. It's Doris Wishman, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I did watch Glen or Glenda this week, which was originally intended to be a Christine Jorgensen movie.
Yeah.
And then Ed Wood said, hey, you know what? I actually have experience in this, so let me make it. And you know what? It's astounding. That movie's from the mid-'50s. Like, that movie would be incendiary if it came out today.
Yeah.
And Ed Wood put it out like 70, almost 70 years ago. That's fucking crazy. Like, and yeah, you can say Ed Wood's not a great director, you know, yeah. But whatever, he's amazing. And by the way, yeah, I did see, Matt, I saw Paul Verhoeven's latest movie, which is on Hulu. It just randomly showed up on Hulu. And I wrote Vendetta. Is anybody else? Have you seen it, Mike?
Mm-mm.
It's a movie about a Catholic nun and how she has erotic visions of Jesus, and then she ends up getting stigmata and taking over the church, but getting a lesbian lover, and they carve a statue of Mary into a phallus. It really goes for it, and I'm amazed because in the '80s, like when Godard put out Hail Mary, like they literally in my small Pittsburgh church, they like denounce Godard in my church, right? Like no Catholic is allowed to see this movie, and it's like, how did this movie come out without people losing their fucking minds? Like, is that the sad world? Like, I love this. I love the old world where people were outside, Silent Night, Deadly Night with, with play cards and screaming that this movie is destroying kids. I want that for this movie.
I don't know. I think what people are. I think the kind of. I feel like the Protestants are the ones who are going to be doing the complaining now. I don't see Catholics as being. Yeah.
I think we have enough. As speaking for my previous religion, there's enough problems in the Catholic Church. Like they can't complain about anything. They've been. Hey, you know
it's
what?
It's tough to point the finger at somebody else.
Yeah, like, and we saw those documentaries on Netflix. Like, we know.
Well, and also, it's the other side. I mean, I feel like it's the atheists who are the ones who are like, we need to shut this movie down because they do something politically incorrect in it or whatever. So it's not the religious fanatics or anything who are trying to shut movies down. Like, I think maybe like if this Paul Verhoeven had made a movie about a Catholic nun who, I don't know, fetishizes people of color or something, then people would protest it and try to get it like out of.
It's different. People's sensibilities are in different places now than they were when religious people used to get worked up. But see, now religious people, though, they make their own movies. They always did, kind of. There was always Ron Orman.
Deep in the Night, yeah.
But now there's like, Left Behind, God's Not Dead. Like there's a whole subgenre of this that they can get this out in. Like they can, you're gonna make your godless movie, well, I'll make a movie called God's Not Dead. Right. So that's sort of like their response instead of trying to get movies shut down.
I guess there was some people complained, but it's not like this movie played. It's just funny though that it's on Hulu and like it wasn't a huge deal. I mean, I know movie theaters are, but it was kind of interesting that it just randomly showed up. The other movie I wanted to ask you about, I don't know if you watched it yet, Bill, but did you guys see X yet?
I haven't watched it yet, no.
Oh, okay. Have you seen it yet, Mike?
What is it?
X?
Oh, yeah, I saw X. Yeah.
Did you dig it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was
I went into it. I didn't know anything about it. Like I had read that it existed, but I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know who was in it or even who made it.
Yeah. And
so I went to go see it and I really enjoyed it. And I kept thinking like the whole time, I was like, why didn't this guy make the Texas Chainsaw movie for Netflix?
Yeah.
Like he understands like how to do something retro and cool and stuff. And I mean, obviously I think he's too good to make some stupid Texas Chainsaw Netflix movie. But I mean, if they wanted to avoid the wrath that they got for being such a piece of shit, they should have got someone like Ty West who like really cared about the original to like do like.
Yeah.
It feels like a better Texas Chainsaw than Texas Chainsaw because it gets the idea of like the I know there's only two people in the house, but like the weird family that lives there and that they've been kind of kidnapping people for years or doing something to people.
And I had no idea that the old lady and the young girl were the same actors.
No, even though they showed their picture and they had that scene together, and that's the Pearl is the sequel that they shot. I guess Ty West wrote it while he was on. They had like a 2-week lockdown when they got to New Zealand, and he wrote it and then said, "Let's make this movie. We have the set and everything." And
so X had that same effect on me that The Demon had, where I was like, where is this movie filmed? This is not America. Is this America? I don't think this is. There's something off about it. And then when I found out it was shot in New Zealand, I'm like, oh, okay.
That's kind of what I liked about it, though, because it felt so weird. And like, it's also very on the cusp of like adult movies or in 79 are about to become home video. And the producer recognizes this, and that, like, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's see.
Don't spoil it for me.
I didn't realize who the main character was in relation to all the background stuff that's happening in the movie. Does that Michael understand it, or whoever else saw it? And then I was like, oh fuck! And like usually movies hit you over the head with who people are, and do you know what I mean? And like they really like hammer it home. And it was like the last scene, and it really hit me, and I was like, oh, that's why this is all. That's, you know. And then once she starts echoing things that other people are saying. Like when she's like, you know, when the divine intervention line gets said, you're like, oh, that's who she is. And it's really awesome. All right. That doesn't ruin anything. I don't want to say anything else.
Yeah. It's hard y'all need to watch X so that we can stop speaking in code.
Yeah. But it's like, it really comes together more than most movies come together. You know what I mean? Like I was like, wow, like I can't believe that this story all wrapped everything up and got it together. And especially when the last title card comes up with just the name of the production company, and then it's very much it feels like the right era. Yeah.
The only problem I had with X though is that with the villains are elderly, so I'm like, how formidable are they really?
Yeah,
because I mean they were able to like, and I'm like, if I was attacked by these people, would I fall victim to them? I mean, wouldn't you just have to like kick them in the shins and they would like be down for the count?
The only thing I didn't like about it is we had to have the one scene where the girl from Pitch Perfect sang with Kid Cudi. And it's like, yeah, we get that you're both musicians. Like, do we really need like, them singing Landslide in that scene? It's like, we know that everybody gets along in the cast. Like, it was really extraneous. Like, and there's a couple needle drops that were like, eh. But otherwise, like, I usually was like trying not to be too critical, and I really dug it.
Yeah. It definitely was though, like that part where they're singing Landslide, and I'm like, oh, are we really gonna like have a little meditation on like getting older? And
yeah, I know.
and here's another thing too. I mean, so the old lady in that movie is like driven mad because she's not pretty anymore and can't have sex.
Yeah.
But when you get to be that age, you've had a long time to get used to the idea. Like I feel like it's a young person's idea of what when people are young, they're like, oh man, when old people must be so upset that they're not young and pretty anymore, and they must be so upset that they can't have sex anymore. And it's like, no, when you get to be older, like you've had time to get used to it and make peace with it. You don't just wake up one day and you're like, why am I not gorgeous anymore? What are all these liver spots? I'm traumatized by looking in the mirror and seeing that I'm not pretty. And it's like, lady, you're 70 years old. Like, when was the last time you were pretty? And why are you like,
that's what Gloria Graham says in Blood and Lace. She's like, maybe one day, Ellie, you'll wake up and look in the mirror too.
You'll have a paralyzed lip. This movie though, like that's literally who she is in this movie.
Gloria Graham.
Yeah, but also if she had just had a vibrator, which is better in a guy anyway, like this is not a problem for women. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever toy she buys is going to be better than her husband. Then again, it's 79 and digital technology, perhaps not what it is today. So
that's true. They hadn't really developed like good vibrators yet.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing. If they sing Landslide in this movie, that couldn't have been cheap.
Nope.
Well, you know, they only had to get the publishing rights because they didn't the performance rights are what costs a lot.
Okay.
But if you just get the rights to the song and sing it yourself or whatever, then it's cheaper.
There's a lot of like Don't Fear the Reapers in there too. You know what I mean? Like that probably wasn't super cheap either.
Well, sometimes they can get it like if there's a production, if there's anybody in like one of the producers, like sometimes if you hear a lot of songs in a movie, it's because like it was co-produced by like ABC Films, and ABC Films has like you know, as a subsidiary of A and R Records or whatever, you know. So it could be that whoever, maybe one of the producers of X, like had rights to these songs already, and so that's like why they put them in the movie.
And that's how the demon got Funky Town.
The demon got Funky Town because he was like in South Africa. He's like, bitch, try to find me, try to sue me for this. You know, I mean, the demon was very, I mean, the demon has always been gray market. It's not public domain, but it shows up on all those sets because the original company that produced it went out of business and licensed it to someone else, and they licensed it to someone else, and the director's dead. And so it's like, who's going to enforce this copyright? And as for like, you know, like Funky Town and stuff, it's like, it's just very gray market. So they're just like, okay, we'll just put a song in. No one will know.
Vince, get ready for 2 Hellraiser movies this year from 2 different companies.
We did get that alternate cut of Nightbreed, at least.
Yeah.
It wasn't a sequel, but we finally got all the deleted footage that was in it. So.
And his first movie is coming out, not Rawhead Rex, the one that comes after it, is coming out on Blu-ray pretty soon too, which is very
after
similar.
Rawhead Rex.
Yeah.
Lord of Illusions.
No. May or be before Rawhead Rex. It's very similar to Nightbreed. Let me get a little magic box here and I'll tell you what it's called. I know I wrote about it, but
Mike Justice, your YouTube channel is called Eerie Midnight Detective Agency.
I have 2. Well, I have my, the Eerie Midnight Detective Agency YouTube channel is where I put all the sort of clips and trailers from the movies that I write about on my blog, or trailers and stuff that I've cut myself. Like I was like, I want to do a TV spot for Pippi Longstocking. They never had one, so I just cut it together. Or like the Demon trailer that you had, like I cut that myself. So I'm like, I put that up on the Eerie Midnight.
That's right, yeah.
Underworld, that's or Transmutations. Yeah, Underworld's the movie I'm thinking of.
Okay, I remember that.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, not great, but it's all right. There's also a Nightbreed interactive movie that you can get that was a computer release that has some extra scenes if you're super into the world of Nightbreed. That's pretty much all you can get. So, sadness.
Well, anything else we should talk about before we sign off? Because it's getting late and people are dropping like flies.
I'm excited for the drive-in next week. I wish Mike was coming, but maybe next time.
Next time. I had to be financially. Also, I couldn't find a cat sitter. Like, I have a cat sitter, and he wasn't going to be available, and I didn't know who else. I just want to like live in my house and take care of my cat while I'm gone. But I have the time off from work, so I'll be in spirit. Oh, you know what? Joe Bob is starting up next week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
supposedly, whatever the first movie is it's a classic, he said, which, you know, those clues never really work. So
it's just whatever is on Shudder.
Yeah. You know what? I said, I hope they never play Halloween 3. I'm fine with them never playing it. Like, I'd rather him show something that people have never seen before. Like, you know, I know you hate Things, but Things or something wild. And like, just that people discover, and it's like, yeah, that's cool. Like, it's
who are you saying hates Things?
Mike Justice hates Things.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
I thought Things was unwatchable. It was like exhaustingly, stressfully bad.
That's my bread and butter. Like, his second movie, Wicked World, is even more so. Like, he sent me a message like in my review, and I'm like, I really said some weird stuff about your movie, but cool, okay.
I don't understand in Things. 90% of it is shot inside a house with terrible, terrible sound. And then at the end of the movie, they go outside and shoot a scene next to like a waterfall. And the scene shot outside next to a waterfall has better sound than the actual scenes that were shot on a controlled environment, like inside the house.
The movie with sandwich making means just as much as anything that happens. There's long scenes of sandwich making, and And then Ginger Lynn's in it, or Amber Lynn's in it. Why? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I had to watch when Joe Bob showed things. I had to watch The Deadly Spawn after to cleanse my brain. And I was like, I want to watch a movie made by people who with actual talent and like.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm about to start writing about movies right now because I have nothing on the site tomorrow yet because I'm that far behind.
Are you guys going to do like a video? Like last year when you went to the drive-in, you guys didn't do any sort of like live. Like
we've never done a live feed from the drive-in. For one thing, all we have is the cell signal out there. There's no Wi-Fi or anything that we can.
Well, maybe we could film something and put it up on the site or on YouTube the next day.
That's probably the most likely thing that we could do.
Yeah, we should maybe, even if it's just a couple of seconds, we should maybe, right?
Or like, who's this? Are there going to be any celebrities there? Like there was like Felissa Rose was there last year or anything?
No, they had somebody lined up, but it fell through. So no.
Felissa Rose could have been in Boarding House, by the way. That's the other point I wanted.
Yeah, why wasn't she?
Because she was like 12.
Okay, yeah,
she was. But it feels like we could have sent her back in time to be in it.
Well, no, she wasn't 12, was she?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, because it was Boarding House Kid was made the same year as Sleepaway Camp.
Okay.
I just like the idea of taking this little like Jersey girl, like this pre-pubescent Jersey girl, and dropping her into the middle of Boarding House. So there's all these like California broads like lounging around in bikinis and stuff. And then all of a sudden she's like, Felissa Rose is there. And she's like, I thought you were the killer.
Yeah, and they're like, why don't you put on a swimsuit? She's like, I don't like the water. And she's just the same character from Sleepaway Camp.
Right.
Movie. She's afraid to get in the pool.
There are going to be vendors there, Tracy.
Yeah, Time Bomb
Toys will be there, and the guys that are always creepy classics will be there.
Time Bomb has some really cool stuff. They were at Pittsburgh Comic Con last weekend, and they had some really neat stuff. So I'm excited to see what they bring this time.
I've never actually been to the location of Time Bomb Toys.
It's not far from here. It's on.
I know where it is. Yeah, it's across from the ice cream place.
Yeah.
We were getting ice cream one night last year in the summer, and we looked over like, oh, there's Time Bomb Toys.
I always end up buying. They always make really great posters of whatever movies are playing, and they've made some really cool posters. I have a really cool Black Christmas one with just a phone on it that they did, and it's like a really nice poster, and I love that one. We have a lot of new stuff to put up, but I'm sure we'll probably get something from there. Hey, and Becca's birthday is next weekend too. It's Sunday of next weekend, so.
Right.
Or birthday when you see her.
Her birthday celebration at the drive-in.
Well, Halloween 2 is it? And it's so lucky that Halloween 2 is first because she will not make it to whatever second. She'll be out.
Yeah.
I think I every time you mention Halloween 2, I tell this same story, but my mom and my aunt took me to see Halloween 2 on my 6th birthday or something.
Oh.
I thought I was a lot older, and then I did the math and went back and realized like what year it came out, and I was like, wait, I don't even think I was in kindergarten yet. I think maybe I was 5, turning 5 or 6, but we missed the beginning, so I was furious.
I'll spoil one of my drinks. One of my drinks is called "Sit on My Face, Amazing Grace."
Have you seen the TV version where he's like,
"Yeah,
Amazing Grace, come slap my face," or whatever? Like it's really like
they're gonna. He and Bud and Lance Guest are gonna be at one of the New Jersey conventions in Cherry Hill, and Becca is like dying to go because they're gonna do photo ops with the two of them together. And Becca's like, she's like, I'll probably just start crying. I just break down and cry. And
so remember when Lance Guest was kind of a star? Like he was in
The Last Starfighter, yeah.
The Last Starfighter, and then he was like the lead in Jaws: The Revenge and stuff, and then he just sort of like
he's in a heart-to-heart TV movie.
That's Lana Revick.
Hey,
Lana.
I don't know what happened to Lance Guest.
I saw him in that heart-to-heart TV movie. Didn't you post a clip from it or a picture or something? Yeah.
It's on the box set that Mill Creek just put out because it's in the they were canceled for a couple years and they came back and did like the 8 TV movies up until like 92 or 93. They're kind of depressing because the last 2 is after Lionel Standard dies, and they're not, there's another Freeway in them. It's kind of depressing.
They didn't have Lionel Standard to beat up on anymore, you mean, and to wash their clothes and cook them breakfast and
Sexually
were off,
harassed nurses.
yeah, while they were off solving murders that haunted them wherever they went in life.
They're serial killers.
Did you see the one where Stephanie Powers was like went to like some fat farm or something to go undercover, and the villains like are going to kidnap her, so the husband has to dress in drag and come to like rescue her. And it's like there's always been rumors that actor might be closeted, and so I was like watching this thing. I was
Wagner,
like, yeah, and I was like, was it when they like did they come to Robert Wagner and say you're going to dress in drag for this episode, or did he come to them and be like, I have this great idea? Why don't I dress in drag? It's what my character would want, you know? And it's like, okay.
Oppositely, to go back to Ed Wood, I love that every time Ed Wood in Glenn or Glenda brings up that he cross-dresses, he's like, I'm still heterosexual. Yes, I dream of coming back as a beautiful woman, and that would be my life's goal. But I love women. And it's like, but he always likes to remind you of it. It's kind of funny.
I know, and it's very much of the time that like the you know, to get them to accept the transvestite, they're like, well, at least he's not gay,
right? Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, phew. I mean, you wearing
I love
the ending
though, where it's like the bonding moment between him and his fiance is she hands him the Angora sweater, and like the music rises up, and like he takes it and like touches it to his face, and the light like just hits him really soft. It's wild. Also, the other reason I love that movie is that Bela Lugosi has no reason to be in it. And it's
brilliant. I saw Glenn or Glenda theatrically, and it was one of the happiest memories, you know, at the Pittsburgh Playhouse.
Yeah, I love the whole Bela Lugosi speech because it's so heartfelt. It's like just wild and like it's just great. Like what a insane movie! Like that movie feels like it could have been made like 10 years ago or not, and it's not obviously.
Do you remember in the movie Ed Wood, the Tim Burton movie, how Sarah Jessica Parker played the girlfriend, I think, and she was like really annoyed, and she's like that he wanted her to be in this movie where she was supposed to be okay with him cross-dressing, and she was like
I think that was in Ed Wood's the biography Nightmare of Ecstasy. Was he was married to a woman named Kathy, and she accepted it. Like she accepted that part of him, but he was like really mean to all of his wives and like beat them, and he was a tragic alcoholic. He had some issues. Yeah.
Whenever I hear Bella's do those speeches now, I still hear Gilbert Godfrey do his Bela Lugosi. So that's always what's kind of stuck in my head when he was Dracula Godfrey talking to me.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just remembered that I saw The Demon on Saturday Nightmares on USA. And I was really hoping that I really wanted them to show it on USA Up All Night because I wanted to hear Gilbert Gottfried or Rhonda Shear like tear it apart. But it never made it to the...
It'd be one of those movies that Gilbert had like way too much trivia about. Like whenever you heard his podcast, he would like dump like tons of knowledge about old actors on you. And you'd be like, wow, I can't believe you knew this much.
Yeah.
Or just talk about Cesar Romero throwing orange slices at people's asses. Do you know about that story?
No.
He was like obsessed with it. He'd be like, Cesar Romero used to pay boys to throw oranges at their assholes. And like he's like, and he went out every old actor that was on that knew him, like when Frank Gorshin was on once, he's like, I don't know about that story, Gilbert. And he would always like bring it up to them.
I bet he did know.
Oh, I'm sure he did. Yeah.
How could you not know?
I mean, come on.
Everybody that's been in a movie with Richard Gere has heard the gerbil story.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, so the gerbil story, was it that he stuck a gerbil up his ass? Was it alive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They taped the claws and then taped it. Supposedly that story came from Stallone. That Stallone started that story because they had problems going back to I can't remember which movie. Because they got in a fight at craft services because Richard Gere got chicken juice all over his outfit. And Stallone was enraged, and he was like, hey, that guy puts gerbils up his ass. And like that's where it got started.
He did him a favor.
Yeah,
it didn't hurt Richard Gere's career at all.
Yeah, he kept him in. Who started the rumor about Rod Stewart's stomach pumping?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, come on.
What's the rumor about Rod Stewart's stomach?
You don't know?
Sam, you want to explain it?
Oh, geez. Why is this always going to be? So, yeah, supposedly Rod Stewart blew so many dudes one night that he was going to die from the amount of sperm in his stomach, so they had to pump his stomach. And like, I heard this rumor so many times.
They pumped a gallon of semen out of his stomach, is the rumor. I mean,
okay, you would never. There's no way.
Yeah.
Like,
do you know how many men it would take to make a gallon?
Yeah. They you know what's funny too is I heard that story, but I heard it about one of the new kids on the block.
Yeah, it got transmuted like as all urban legends do.
Right. And they were like, did you hear like Joey went to the doctor and like they pumped his stomach and found all this semen? And I'm like, why would you just get your stomach pumped when you go to the doctor?
Yeah,
it
would take someone actually looked this up, Bill. It would take about 6,000 guys to make a gallon of sperm.
There was that was one of those recurring urban legends, like the one about Alice Cooper, supposedly that he would bring out all these puppies and kittens at the beginning of the concert and throw them into the audience and say, we're not gonna perform until every one of these puppies and kittens is up on this stage dead. And that the crazed audience would kill the puppies and kittens and put them back up on this. It was something that, like, you know, Christian alarmists talked about.
All the same stories got recycled from Marilyn Manson. Like the same
and eventually it was Marilyn Manson that they said that about.
Yeah, in the same way that the stomach pumping became Joey or one of the other new kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you had a gallon of anything in your stomach, it could probably make you pretty sick.
Yeah. I clear my Google history every day, Steve. Thank you. I just I set it on fire and burn. Also, I know this stuff from studying it. I was going to get my master's in cultural anthropology just so I could give my dissertation on Rod Stewart getting overloaded.
What a way to end the show.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm really proud of it. It's good that Becca's asleep because anytime I start telling these stories, she just goes, Sam, and that's supposed to stop me. And I'm like,
many thanks to our guest tonight, Mike Justice. Thank you so much for being on the show again.
You're welcome. It was fun. I didn't even get I wasn't even I didn't get stage fright this time, so I think I'm probably growing as a pundit or something.
Are you over it, Mike Justice?
No, I think it's just it's I realize now that if I don't ever have to hear myself or rewatch these, then it's fine. Like, I don't think that I suck live. I just think that I suck in hindsight. So I just never revisit the podcasts or the shows that I do, and that's good. Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things that I do is go back and watch. But you really should. It's helped me get better as a host and as a personality that is endeavoring to do something like this. So it helps, but it's hard sometimes.
We have a podcast coming out soon too, Bill. Right? The one we did one that we did about eating Raoul.
Yes, we're going to be on Scream Queens sometime. I think probably like very soon, maybe like tomorrow or Monday is when he's going to put it out. My
mom asked me when it was coming out, and I'm like, oh, well, you can't listen to that one because I talked about what basket jobs are, and I talked about soaking again for about 10 minutes. And I was like, oh, that's where the affable perversion comes in because there's a line that where she's like, well, you could give basket jobs, and he was like, I don't know what that is. And I was like, oh, well, that's when you lower a woman in a bamboo cage onto somebody. How the fuck do you know that?
Also, in a week, I'm going to be doing a show on Sunday nights with Rigor from the Then Is Now podcast. It's called Fright Lounge. And it's going to be a live thing, 8 p.m. Sunday night, I believe. So I'll be posting about it more on my social media. That's going to be next weekend. The day after the Monsterama, somehow I'm gonna do this.
And don't forget the Abomination book's out.
Right? Yeah. Go get it on Amazon. Sam's on the cover, and he's in the book too.
Yeah. What did I say?
He writes a chapter.
Said there's every other movie in the world, then there's the Abomination. 100% believe that. It's
the truth.
It's the truth. It's something else. And you can also learn in this book how to make your own abomination.
All right.
Why
And
would
if you do, maybe it'll show up one night on the Drive-In Asylum double feature. So
see you
thanks
guys
a
in
lot
2
for
weeks?
hanging with us, and we'll see you next time, 2 weeks from now.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.